Let's remove the hard skin from this foot. So firstly, I'm actually working my own foot, which is why I haven't got any gloves on. So I'm using a 150 grit sanding disc and using just that first quarter of the sanding disc in an almost shaving motion. So going from the base of the heel up towards the centre of the foot, you can see how that's shaving that softer skin. So that easily removes, as you can see there. Now, what is a little bit more tricky to remove are all those cracks and fissures, and we will talk through that. So when the build-up isn't too much, you're going to work from the back of the heel up to the centre using the first quarter of that sanding disc. If you're working on quite a lot of build-up, you're going to actually want to change these quite regularly. So now we're working towards some of the cracks as well, and you're still going to use that same motion. Now I'm going to work from side to side on these cracks because what I want to do is firstly thin down that area where the cracks are to allow the angle of that sanding disc to get into those cracks so I can then completely smooth them down. So this angle is going to be smoothing each side of those cracks. And you can see there we're using that first quarter of the sanding disc, and because it's rotating, it's going to use that quarter all around the whole circumference of that sanding disc. So still with a 150 grit, you can see that hard skin just gliding off. Now I'm working at a speed of 30 to 40,000 RPM. Now on this foot, I am using a speed of 40,000 RPM, and that is because the hard skin buildup is so much. It's really important to work at a higher speed when you're using this kind of technique because it will just glide over smoothly. It can be tempting to actually work on a lower speed because you think that this will be more comfortable for the customer. However, if you work on a low speed, what you'll actually need to do is apply more pressure, and then more pressure is going to actually create heat buildup and discomfort to the customer. So you can see how I'm constantly moving around, never staying in one area more than once, always doing one pass, move on, one pass and moving on. You can also check with your hand that if the area starts to feel a little bit warm, and also get your customer to advise you if anything starts to feel warm, and get them to advise you like before it gets warm, so at the start of any kind of heat build up. So just constantly do an area, move on, do an area, move on, and work at that higher speed. I almost recommend working at the higher speed that your e-file can actually do, because it will just glide and shave off that hard skin really easily without the heat buildup, and will actually be much more comfortable. You can also see the difference in colour now as well. So by removing this really hard skin, I'm actually revealing the pinkness that the foot should be. So it's not pink as in red, raw and sore, but you can see that is that nice healthy pink glow that the foot should have. It's getting rid of that yellowy, dull look. So when you feel a very hard skin on the foot, you can actually feel that it's got like no give or suppleness to it at all. Nice hydrated skin has that suppleness, so when you press it, it bounces back. But when the hard skin buildup is very severe like this, you'll actually find that this doesn't have any bounce to it. So what you need to do is get rid of that first, and that will allow you to then start working into these cracks. And you can see the difference in colour, and also that is what will make it so much more comfortable for your customer. So when you've got that really hard thick build-up, it's actually very uncomfortable to walk on. It can create pressure on your foot and sores on your foot. So we're just walking around to the other side now, and you can actually see my pinky is always supporting as I'm working. So I'm using that pinky as a support, so my hand isn't going to slip as I'm working. So again, working from the base up to the centre of that foot, and making sure that you do get the back of the heel. So this heel is actually, you want to have the customer so their foot is upside down, so the base is facing you. That's the most ideal position to be working in, but obviously work with your customer and you for what is the most comfortable. But always ensure that whatever you're working on is always in full view. So you need to make sure that you are getting all where the heel turns and curls up, but what you need to make sure is that you are very careful of the bones on the heel. So again, never do this blind, so you can always see what you're doing, and just be careful of that bone, because if you accidentally catch that because you're not looking, I've had that done with a hand foot file before, when the foot is actually, the toes are facing me and the base of the foot is downwards. That I would say is the worst position to have your customer's foot in when it's like that, because what you can't do is you can't see the back of that heel, which is actually quite often the worst area of dry skin build-up. So this is why I recommend that the customer is actually upside down, so whether they're on a bed or something like that, or you are able to manoeuvre their foot up enough that you can see the very back of that heel. But yeah, even with a hand foot file, I've had that caught before and it's really quite sore. So just be careful, or hold your other hand on that area so you know not to go past that. You can see the huge difference that this has made already. So this is 6 minutes in, and this is how long it has taken to do this foot. That was the heel, and now just on to the ball of the foot. So I've changed this to a 180 grit now, working in exactly the same technique. The first quarter, the outer quarter of that sanding disc, I'm working upwards, so I'm working from the middle to the tip, and then now side to side. This doesn't need as much, and be aware of the ball of the foot. This can be a very, very tickly area, and it can be a little bit of a tickly technique. So always secure that foot and check with your customer in the consultation whether they are ticklish as well. So just going up to the toe as well, you may, if this is only a small amount, you may want to drop to a 240 grit sanding disc for this technique now, if there isn't a huge amount of build-up. You'll still see some of the whiteness, which is actually the dust in the hard skin. You don't want to get rid of it all. And the next step we're going to do is be hydrating it and polishing it. So you can see here now, I'm popping some cuticle oil on. This could be moisturiser or cuticle oil. Apply that, rub it in, and you can see how that has just plumped up the rest of those cracks, and it's much, much smoother. You can actually see some movement as I'm now doing this. So this is now a 320 grit, and all I'm doing is pushing in that oil into the skin to really, really hydrate it. It's like using a polishing ball on the fingers. You're going to just sloth away any little bits of hard skin that's still there and push in that cuticle oil. It's going to make sure that the client's feet aren't really wet as well when they put their sandals on. So you can see here the difference that has made. It's really important that the customer comes back for regular appointments and follows their aftercare.